Hello, welcome to First Page Friday. This is a new series that I am starting. My name is Olivia. I am a developmental editor and certified fiction book coach. I help genre fiction writers revise with confidence so they can create books their future readers will love. And today I decided to do something a little bit different. I am going to read from the first pages of Phantasma by Kaylie Smith, and I'm going to tell you what makes this book work for readers. So essentially consider this like your little mini masterclass in how to start a book the right way from an author who's actually done it in their published book. So I am not that author, by the way, but I am just going to read from the first pages and I'm going to give you my interpretation as a developmental editor and book coach for why I think it works so well. All right, we're going to start with the prologue of this book. And it says, "The devil had a wicked mouth and a voice as smooth as vermin. What is your decision?" He pressed as he trailed the tip of his index finger down one side of her throat, his lips mere centimeters from her racing pulse on the other. "You tricked me," she whispered. He laughed in response, his breath caressing her feverish skin. He was so close that she could barely think. Any coherent response to his question eluded her, as another shot of adrenaline rushed through her veins. But the events leading up to this moment were burned into her mind with vivid clarity. All right, this is one of those prologues that jumps us forward in time and lets us know where we are headed with the story before it even begins. And personally, I love that style. The other thing I think works about this prologue is that it is so stinking short. We are not even at a full page here. And I think when people hate on prologues, they are not hating on good prologues like this. They are hating on the prologues that take 10 pages, that are full of backstory, that have nothing happening. Here we are getting one teeny tiny moment. And not only is it super short, super specific, this is a moment that is intriguing. We want to know how she got here, and now the rest of the story is going to take us on that journey. And I think the other thing that is so powerful here is that it is giving us such a clear indication of the genre. Clearly, so whatever is going on here is a little bit sensual, a little bit dark. So that is giving us a really clear indication that this is a dark romance. Here in this case, the devil is literal, so it is also giving us an indication of that fantasy plot. So we know exactly what we are getting ourselves into as the story kicks off. And I think that is a brilliant way to start a story with a prologue that actually works, keeping it short, keeping it snappy, and really giving us a moment that hooks readers and makes them want to find out what happens next. Because a lot of prologues do not actually do that. They give us something that isn't intriguing, isn't hooking us, and is just filling in backstory that we actually don't need to know. Whereas this prologue is making us ask more questions. It's not answering any of them at this point. So we want to read and find out what happens next. All right, on to chapter 1. Moonlight glinted off the gilded locket clasped around the corpse's cold neck. All right, that opening line is delightful because we know we have a corpse, but for some reason we are focusing on the locket, not the corpse itself, which to me is interesting. It's intriguing. It makes us want to know what is happening in this scenario. Anytime we start with a dead body on the page, we want to know what happened, how did we get here? And again, this is another opening line that is making us ask questions, is not giving us backstory, is not dumping information on us, but it makes us want to know what is going on here and what is up with this locket, why is it important, and why is it around a dead person's neck. All right, on to the next paragraph. Ophelia Grimm unfastened her mother's heart-shaped necklace with fervor before stepping clear of the spell circle and reaching beneath her loose umber curls to secure the familiar bauble around her own throat. A shiver ran down her spine when the chilled metal settled against her skin, and her flesh prickled beneath it. Ophelia sank to her knees on the left of her mother's pale corpse, her sister, Genevieve, watching a few feet away in rapt silence. Tightening her grip around the silver blade in her hand, Ophelia pressed its sharp tip into the soft ivory flesh of her inner arm. The slice was deep but precise, drawing enough blood that it dripped and pooled onto the ground before her and dyed the delicate white material of her nightgown a macabre shade of vermilion. The scent of iron and salt was pungent. All right, here we are getting into the action right away, which is exactly what we want to do in the beginning of a story. We are getting some backstory, but it's all woven together with the action. We know that the dead body is Ophelia's mother. We know that our main character is named Ophelia. We know that her sister is there and she has a sister. We also know that there's magic happening here because we have the reference to the spell circle. We realize that the locket is important, that the first thing that happens is Ophelia takes this locket off of her dead mother's neck and puts it on herself. We don't yet know why, but that is inviting a lot of questions about why are we taking this necklace? Why is this so important? We don't really get a sense of whether or not they're grieving at this moment. So we wonder, Did they have something to do with their mother's death? What was the relationship like before she died? All we are getting here is more and more questions that make us want to read on to the next page. And again, we aren't getting that through a ton of backstory. It's not, hey, here's Ophelia and her sister, and this is their mother, and this is the house they live in. We are just focused on the action. She takes the necklace, she puts it on her neck. We are getting the visceral sensations of that moment. We are getting super specific with the shiver running down her spine, her flesh prickling beneath it. So we're getting a sense of that visceral reaction, but nothing is spelled out for us in terms of it was sad. This is her mother. This is their history. None of that. We don't need to know that yet. All we need right now is a lot of curiosity driving us forward into the rest of the story. All right, onward. Ophelia let the blade clatter to the floor, and Genevieve flinched like a spooked hare. Ophelia ignored her sister's cringing as she struck a match, relishing the hiss of the igniting fire in the dead quiet of Grim Manor. She reached toward the nearest candle and waited for its wick to flare to life, tapping the side of the waxy pillar while she counted each touch silently in her head. 1, 2, 3. When the candle finally lit, Ophelia nudged it into place within the spell circle, and the rest of the pillars around Tessie Grimm's lifeless body instantly ignited. The Grimm sisters' shadows stretched all the way up to the ceiling as the velvet curtain billowed violently. Here we are still going straight into the action, but now we're also getting a little bit more information. We find out they're in Grim Manor, which we can assume is their house. And we also learn a lot about the characters just through their reactions here. We have Genevieve is startled. She seems more nervous. Maybe she is less comfortable with whatever is going on here. Versus Ophelia, who takes pleasure in the match lighting, which is a very odd thing to have happen as you are casting a spell around your mother's corpse. But that is just who she is. And we are starting to understand these two sisters, how they are different from each other. And again, we are curious, what is the spell? What are we doing with this corpse? Why are we lighting candles around the body? What is going to happen next? So it is a delightful book. That was the first page. If you want to go check out Phantasma for yourself, Kaylie Smith is the author. It is a delightful fantasy romance that I had a lot of fun with. This is my favorite read of 2025, and that is why I wanted to start this series. This was supposed to be a live stream, but apparently I have to wait 24 hours before live streaming for the first time. But I am hoping to come back and do more of these live on Fridays. Why not? First Page Friday. I'm just going to talk about first pages, what makes them work for readers, because that is my job as the developmental editor, is to help you as a writer create a book that your future readers will love. So why not show you what made me love books that I have read, especially books in my particular genre, which is fantasy and fantasy romance, along with some others, but those are my two favorites. So thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next Friday, hopefully live. We'll see.